Hey guys, today we're going to do part 4 where we left off and jump on in. So here we go. I can get him from here, Hugo said. Hold on. Wait, May said. That's one of Fu's friends. I might be able to talk to him, get him to let my grandfather go. We shouldn't go out there, Hugo said. It might be a trap. And if the beasts show up, they might overwhelm us. Then we won't, May said. You go. I don't want to leave you by yourself, Hugo said, and I don't think it's safe for you to come with me either. I'm coming with you, though, May said. I know, Hugo said. Just stay close to me. This place is out in the open. With all the trouble happening around us, I'm afraid of what could happen. May nodded. Hugo and May walked toward the officer and Ty. He'd have to use his earthen defense. He didn't want to use it because he could harm himself, and the weight of it slowed him down. However, the officers had Faison weaponry. If they ambushed him and May, he had to protect himself. His earthen defense was a technique he created and practiced during his individual training. He developed it to protect against Faison energy. He remembered all too well from his stint in prison the officers shooting him with Faison energy. He decided he'd wait to use his earthen defense when he and May stood across from the officer. Stay close behind me, Hugo said under his breath to May. Okay, May said. When Hugo and May stood across from Ty and the officer, Hugo moved earth up and underneath his clothes to lie on his body. He held it in place. Standing still while using his earthen defense made him feel uncomfortable, but better uncomfortable than shot up with Faison energy. I'm here, Nuan, May said. Nuan had a hold on Ty. He tightened his grip on him. Let my grandfather go, May said. Hugo could easily break Nuan and Ty apart and get May, Ty, and himself out of here. What worried him was the fact that even if this was a trap, the whole city had become a death trap. Glancing at the nearby buildings that surrounded them, Hugo was concerned someone could shoot them at any moment, but that was nothing compared to the beasts rampaging in the streets and dropping out of the sky that could eat them or tear them apart. You didn't have to come back from me, Ty said. I wasn't concerned about what Kun Ling might do to you, May said. The city is under attack from beasts that energists are having trouble combating. I wanted to make sure I didn't lose you. As May spoke, Hugo watched Kun Ling emerge from the magistrate's building. He kept his eye on her. I can't release Tai until you meet with Kun Ling, Nuan said. That's fine, May said. I want to see her as well. You're a friend of Fu's, Hugo said. Will Kun Ling hurt her? Are you on his side or hers? I'm on the side of the city, Nuan said. She's coming, Hugo whispered back to May before he nodded toward the building. Kun Ling walked until she stood beside Nuan. May stepped from behind Hugo, which alarmed him, and she proceeded to speak with Kun Ling. She was supposed to stay behind him. He took a step beside her. Kun Ling, May said, I know you don't care for me. I apologize for any amount of pain I caused you, but now isn't the time to act on your hatred toward me. Allow me to take my grandfather and leave. Forget about my sister and me. Concentrate on saving the city. Save it before the beasts completely destroy it. You ruined my life, Kun Ling said, glaring at May. You and your family are responsible for the tragedies befalling our city. Your sister released the Energist prisoners, who are now attacking my officers. My officers cannot do their job because they have to deal with them. I'll use you to set everything right. Kun Ling tried to grab May, but Hugo stopped her by grabbing her forearm. "Sorry," Hugo said, "but you're not going to touch her." Kun Ling glared at him. With her Phison handgun in her other hand, she raised it close to her body and aimed it at him. She shot him, pulled the trigger 3 times, but Hugo's earthen defense protected him. The Phison had no effect. "I won't touch her," Kun Ling said. "I'll kill her." She shot May. With one swift movement, she shot May in the head. May dropped. Before she hit the ground, Hugo caught her. He sat on the ground, holding on to her. "May," Hugo whispered. He used the earth to entangle both Kun Ling and Nuan. He vaguely heard Tai shouting May's name. Tai dropped down beside her. He hadn't thought Kun Ling was so crazy she would kill May. He vaguely heard someone else yell May's name before something violently shook the ground. "Yunzu!" Kun Ling shouted. "Kill Zai Chen!" Hugo looked up from May and saw Energists headed toward the square, headed toward the magistrate's building. Other Energists fought against the officers that detained them. They were escaping. They were exacting their revenge. "Kill all her followers!" Kun Ling shouted. He saw more beasts arrive on the scene. They began to attack the officers and anyone who attacked them. "You killed my sister!" Hugo heard a young woman shout these words at Kun Ling, running toward her in a rage. Zai Chen, he presumed. She raised a fist, channeling a large amount of thunder energy into it. A second later, a stream of lightning passed by her and shocked Kun Ling, electrocuted her until she was dead. Her body slumped in its earthen entanglements and began to smoke. A beast crashing into the magistrate's building with an ice axe in its chest drew Hugo's attention right after that. He turned away from it all and gazed back upon May's face. He had let her down. He had let her die. "Yungzu!" Nuan shouted, but he sounded far away. Hugo felt immense pain, but he didn't make a sound in response to it. He felt like his whole body was shutting down. Someone had shot him in the head with Phison energy, the only part of him he had left unprotected. Multiple Phison energy shots hit him in the back, but his earthen defense prevented the shots from affecting him. The shot to the head, however, caused his earthen defense to falter. It crumbled down through his clothes. Hugo thought about May and Kun Ling. 2 people were dead. People were under attack. More people were dying. No one was concentrating on the major threat. Tai took May into his arms, and Hugo stood up. Standing made his pain heightened, but he blocked it out. He ignored it and stood. He could do something. He could save May's city and its inhabitants, even if it cost him his life. He owed her that. He held a deep breath. He used his geo-energy. His vision blurred. His hearing deafened. His nervous system, all the nerves in his body, felt like they exploded. He focused. His nose bled. A violent headache overtook him. The innocent civilians and the officers couldn't protect themselves, but the Energists could. His vision began to fail him. He felt them. He felt the people around him, felt them as they ran and fought across the earth's surface. He felt the difference between the officers' footsteps, the prisoners', and the civilians' footsteps. He concentrated all of his geo-energy out of his body and into the earth. The ground shook. He entangled all the officers and civilians around the city. His earth reached into houses, stores, buildings throughout the city. He pulled all of these people underground and created an underground tunnel for all of them to escape from underneath the city. He let his deep breath go. He fell onto his hands and knees. Hugo wasn't crying, but he felt tears of blood slide down his face. He crawled to May, who was in Ty's arms. Ty had placed May's hand on her chest. Hugo placed a hand on hers. Zai-Chin, Tai spoke to May's sister, who stood beside him. She's gone. Zai-Chin let herself fall to May's side. She was in tears. I'm sorry, Hugo said in a quick breath to Tai, to Zai-Chin, and to May. His pain drove him to the ground, forcing his eyes shut and the air out of his lungs. Junio and Guinness were close. They were here. He knew they were. They could handle the beast. He was sure of it. Those were his last thoughts before he lost consciousness. Alright guys, that was the end of part 4 in section 1. Tomorrow we'll start section 2, entitled Junio and the Prisoners. Hopefully this last part didn't bring you down too bad. We'll find out what happens next tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.